this time. I'm Dennis Adegunloye. Let's first take the headlines. Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board suspends use of National Identification Number as criteria to sit for its 2020 examinations. World Health Organization recognizes efforts of federal government towards achieving polio-free society. Iranian government admits shooting Ukrainian passenger jet, killing all 176 people on board unintentionally. And now the news in detail. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAM, has suspended the use of National Identification Number, NIN, as criteria to sit for the 2020 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, UTME, and Direct Entry Examination. Olayinka Ojo reports that the Registrar of JAM, Professor Ishak Oloyede, stated this at the board's headquarters in Buhari, Abuja, to the top management staff of the National Identification Management Commission, NIMC, in attendance. Slow down, oh.
For 2020, we are not going to use NIN as prerequisite for registration. We are therefore suspending this till subsequent year, 2021, when all candidates will have been given what appears that like a 1 year notice that they will have opportunity for doing their registration.
We employ all parents to students registering JAM in 2021 to ensure they enroll themselves and their children in good time to avoid this last minute rush. We have about 2 million JAM registrars. We have only 1,000 centers, and but based on the standards, we are supposed to have at least 4,000 centers. But in the coming year, with the ecosystem in place, we believe that we will have more than 10,000 centers.
On health matters, the World Health Organization has recognized the efforts towards achieving a polio-free Nigeria. The WHO is expected to declare Nigeria a polio-free country this year if no new case is reported in any part of the country. The international body therefore recognized the role being played by traditional and religious leaders in the polio vaccination coverage in the country. Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Sani Guazo, was also recognized by the WHO on the role he played in ensuring that Nigeria makes significant progress in her polio eradication program.
At the time of looking at the transition, but it was a critical time of reforming the WHO emergency work. One of the things is, how do you make sure people in conflict and fragile states are able to get vaccination, especially as we fight against polio? That work required thinking. How do you work with governments, but also states where weak governments, almost failed states, to ensure vaccines reach everyone? That work. Today, many of our countries in Africa don't have one polio virus because of the work that people like Dr. Sani did to stop.
Nigeria was abused openly for spreading polio. So I looked at it, I said Kano State is the worst state at that time in Nigeria where polio was being spread. We developed a three-pronged strategy. Immediately the WHO saw it, they gave me an appointment to stay within WHO. I spent 2 years in WHO Nigeria moving that strategy forward. And that is what culminated in the three-pronged, the Majigi program, the traditional leaders, and the religious leaders. And that is what cut short the spread of polio in northern Nigeria and in essence in the whole country.
Sani Gwazo was a director in the Ministry of Health before his posting as permanent secretary in the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. Now, the Buhari Media Organization, BMO, has described the failure of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to complete its National Secretariat building in 12 years as the most telling commentary on the party's record of project execution. The media group, in a statement by its chairman, Ni Akinseju, says the present administration inherited a number of abandoned projects across the country from the PDP when it could not even complete its own office structure after raising almost 3 times the amount required. BMO says it is surprising for the opposition party to say it could have done better than what President Buhari and the All Progressives Congress has been doing since inauguration. The pro-Buhari media group therefore says the APC-led administration is working on 13 housing estates which are slated for completion this year under the National Housing Project Plan. This is aside from 47 road projects scheduled for completion in 2020-2021. Lagos, Kano, Maiduguri and Enugu international airports to be commissioned in 2020, as well as the Lagos, Ibadan and Itakpe-Warri rail lines, which are to be delivered in the first quarter of this year. In Nasarawa State, stakeholders in primary healthcare want collaboration with traditional rulers to be further explored and enhanced for effective service delivery to the people. At a meeting with officials, the Emir of Lafia, Justice Sidi Mohammed I, commends the federal government and partners for supporting the state government in overcoming healthcare challenges. Grace Akwe Gotip reports.
Improving healthcare services, particularly in rural communities of the state, is at the center of the meeting between sector officials and traditional rulers. In addition to commending the progress so far, the meeting says more should be done to uplift the standard of living of the people. The Emir of Lafia says traditional rulers will sustain sensitization of their people on health programs and services.
The Traditional Council in Nasarawa State is behind this laudable objective. We give all our support, whatever that will be required of us to do within our limits. We try and give a helping hand.
We want to show them that those little efforts that is being made within the community is what is adding to the quality of the health care system in Nasarawa State. So they should not relent their effort, and we, their children that are working at the agency, will ensure that we don't let them down.
Similarly, the meeting condemns truancy on the part of personnel, vandalism of facilities and diversion of drugs. In Lafia, Grace Akwegoti, NTA News.
Let's turn our attention to security matters now, and 5 people held captive by Boko Haram terrorists have been rescued by combined troops deployed to Guza, Borno State. A statement by the Nigerian Army Operations Media Coordinator, Colonel Aminu Ilyasu, indicates that the troops comprising elements of Theatre Strike Force, Cameroonian Defense Force, Civilian Joint Task Force and hunters liberated the victims during a clearance operation at Ungwan Gara Kwantar Mountain. Similarly, 1 person abducted from Dikwa local government area of Borno State has been rescued by troops of Operation Lafia Dole. Colonel Ilyasu notes that several terrorists were killed and arms recovered at the recent encounter. Meanwhile, the Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello has charged security agencies and the public to provide new leads that will help unravel the culprits behind the recent attack on Tawari community. The command is coming on the heels of the death toll recorded after the attack.
Life has returned to normal in Tawari community, which recently came under attack by unknown gunmen. Although the mood is melancholic with the vestiges of the ruins as a sad reminder of the incident. The state governor and other functionaries of government are soon to ameliorate members of the community.
Similar incidents happen sometimes back in Dekina. This same Basa and Omala area, where I paid a personal visit to. And we applied certain steps and provided solutions to these areas. Those solutions appear to be very effective. We are going to apply that solution to.
Commissioner of Police, Kogi State Command Ede Ekpeji Ayuba, has deployed covert operations to tackle the security menace. The closed-door meeting with security agencies, traditional rulers and community leaders is aimed at assessing the level of damage done, the remote and immediate causes behind the attack, and to build an information base and channels of communication for security tips and quick response.
As of today, not only the Tawari and Populobi, but the whole area are fully secure by all security agencies in Kogi State.
We have a lot of security around our place. But for 3 days, when the incident happened, everything was scanty. The security people came around, immediately their bosses go away to go away.
When we visited Kukulivida, we discovered that 5 people were killed in that community. So that brings the total to 29.
The governor also had similar meeting with leaders of Basa local government area over incidents of communal clashes, where he directed the leaders and the police to ensure peace is guaranteed and those that have fled their homes return safely. He reassured the people that community policing will be strengthened all over Kogi State. From the government house, Lokoja, Francis Udojo, NTA News.
In other news, President Muhammadu Buhari says his administration is poised to tackle ecological problems in the country so as to alleviate the suffering of the people. The president made this known in a message at the inauguration of Gully Erosion Project in Bida, Niger State. Jones Ajayi reports.
Project, which was for the second quarter of 2018. Based on this, a total of 1,571 meters of drainage and artwork was executed across 6 different sites in Bida Township. Inaugurating the project, President Muhammadu Buhari said the project is expected to address the devastating effects of erosion and flood menace in the country. Represented by the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Zubairu Dada, the President noted that the project underscores the federal government's efforts and sincerity of purpose in tackling problems of the citizens. The President enjoined the beneficiaries to see the project as theirs, guide it, ensure that it's adequately maintained and not used as dump sites.
Ecological issues are matters that we all share. In other words, all tiers of government must be involved.
Niger State Governor Abubakar Sani Bello, represented by the Permanent Secretary, Niger State Minister of Environment, Lucky Barau, appreciated the federal government for the gesture. In a message, the Permanent Secretary, Ecological Fund Office, Dr. Habiba Lawal, represented by the Deputy Director, Soil and Erosion Control, Udochi Unwachuku, enjoined the community to exercise ownership of the project and ensure its sustainability. Etunupe and Chairman Niger State Council of Traditional Rulers, Alhaji Yaya Abubakar, expressed gratitude for the completion of the project, saying it has brought succor to his people. High point was the unveiling of the plaque and presentation of handover certificate of the project to the Etunupe by the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Zubairu Dada. Jones Ajayi, NTA News.
This is the news on NTA International, reaching you live from Abuja. Please stay tuned for more news after this timeout.
Hear the call of change. Stand up, Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. Go so let the change begin from within. Look at you, oh Gerula. Change begins with you and me. Oh, change begins with me. Oh, change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
NTA International News. Africa as it is.
Thanks for staying tuned. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari commiserates with the government and people of Anambra State over the passing of Professor Chukwuemeka Ike, renowned author, scholar, and traditional ruler of Ndike Lionwu Kingdom. The president condoles with family, friends, and associates of the traditional ruler, whose loyalty to the nation will continue to resonate in the way he mobilized his community for civic duties and sensitized youths on the value of good education. President Buhari believes that the administrator, cerebral scholar, and prolific writer will always be remembered for his exceptional creativity in communicating wisdom in simple ways through books and other publications, which have been used by many institutions as teaching tools within and outside the country. And next is a review of news that made headlines in the outgoing week, and Joyce Ometu is our guide.
Hello and welcome to this segment of the news where we look back at stories that made headlines in the last 7 days. We begin with President Muhammadu Buhari, who during the week restated his resolve to a credible electoral process in Nigeria. To this end, the president charged the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and the Nigeria Police Force to be firm and fair, as well as provide a level playing and secured environment for all in discharge of their responsibilities. This was at a strategic meeting with the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, and the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu. Also during the week, President Muhammadu Buhari tasked the nation's youth as future leaders to take ownership of a next-level enterprise by jealously guarding and supporting genuine efforts at building a sustainable future for all. This was when he hosted the All Progressive Congress national and zonal youth leaders and representatives from the 6 geopolitical zones. The president urged them to brace up for leadership as he sustains efforts at stabilizing the country and fighting corruption. Meanwhile, the federal government said education will henceforth be accorded topmost priority, especially through the provision of infrastructure and capacity building in the nation's universities, so as to produce quality graduates for nation building. President Muhammadu Buhari, who made this known when he received the leadership of Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, said, effective and efficient operations of universities will go a long way towards enhancing the nation's economy, especially with focus on science and technology. Still in the week under review, Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed directed the nation's Broadcasting Commission, NBC, to immediately implement measures aimed at repositioning the broadcast industry with a view to bringing sanity into the sector. This was contained in a statement by the Information and Culture Minister, signed by the Special Assistant on Media, Segun Adeyemi. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tuku Buratai, during the week inaugurated the Natural and Applied Science Complex of the Nigerian Army University BU in Borno State. The center runs special courses like artificial intelligence, robotic technology, nanotechnology, weapon and armament technology to support the replenishment of military equipment. The Army University was conceptualized in 2018 to provide research-based solutions to challenges confronting the military in view of its increasing role in the nation's emerging security threats. And now to judicial matters. The Supreme Court upheld the victories of the governors of Abia, Taraba, Niger, and Delta states at the 2019 governorship election. The 7-man panel of justices led by Justice Bode Rhodes Vivo gave the unanimous judgment on Wednesday. The Apex Court held that while the use of the card reader for the conduct of the election was commendable and should be sustained, it is not superior to the voters' register until the use of the card reader is imputed in the Electoral Act. Now, the Harmattan haze disrupted flight operations in parts of the country during the week under review. The weather condition led to the reduction of air-to-ground visibility, causing diversion of flights. Passengers and travelers at the Murtala Mohammed Airport, Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, and the Margaret Ekpo International Airport in Calabar had difficult time navigating their destination. Travelers also complained about incurring additional costs for either having their flights delayed or diverted. And to some heartwarming news, for the first time in Nigeria, conjoined twins who were joined in the chest and abdomen and successfully separated at the National Hospital Abuja were brought before the public during the week. It was revealed that the procedure lasted for 12.5 hours. The health professionals promised to continue to do more to reduce medical tourism in the country. Mercy and Goodness, the conjoined twins, were declared fit and discharged as the National Hospital Abuja celebrated the landmark achievement. And that's it on this segment. Thanks for staying. I am Joyce Umitu.
Thank you, Joyce, for that week in review package. Now, Iran says its military unintentionally shot down a Ukrainian passenger jet, killing all 176 people on board, Iran state TV reports. The statement said it had done so due to human error after the plane flew close to a sensitive site belonging to Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Mistaken for a hostile target, the jet was hit by a missile, that the statement further added. Those responsible would be held accountable, it further says. Iran had previously rejected suggestions that one of its missiles brought down the plane near the capital, Tehran, on Wednesday. But pressure mounted after the US and Canada, citing intelligence, said they believed Iran had shot down the plane with a missile, possibly accidentally. The Ukrainian flight en route to Kiev came down near Imam Khomeini Airport shortly after takeoff. Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has demanded that Iran punish those responsible for the downing of the airliner, as well as pay compensation and apologize. We expect, quote, to bring the guilty to the courts, Zelensky wrote on Facebook, calling also for the return of the remains. We hope the inquiry will pursue without deliberate delay and without obstruction, Zelensky added. He said he wanted total access to the full inquiry for 45 Ukrainian experts, and in a tweet also sought an official apology. And UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has called Iran's admission it shot down a passenger plane by mistake an important first step, and said it reinforces the importance of de-escalating the tensions in the region. Ministry of Youth and Sports Development Sunday Dare receives reports on crisis in Athletics Federation in Lagos. Olumide Eguntola has this and more on Sports Updates.
The Reconciliatory Committee set up by the Nigeria Olympic Committee to investigate the crisis rocking the Athletics Federation of Nigeria and also provide solutions to achieve an amicable resolution, submitted its report to the Minister of Youth and Sports Development Sunday Dare at the headquarters of the Nigeria Olympic Committee. The committee, headed by the Vice President of NOC and President of the Badminton Federation of Nigeria, spent 3 weeks interrogating the various factions and came up with recommendations which the Sports Minister is expected to analyze for implementation.
We are very eager to resolve what the issues are very quickly so that we can all work together.
16 national cricket players are in camp in Lagos, training ahead of the African Cricket Association tournament scheduled for Kenya from the 20th to 28th of March 2020. The team, which has been playing trial matches at the Tafawa Balewa Cricket Oval, is perfecting its tactics and formations to represent the country at the tournament, which will give the country an opportunity to improve on its rankings in Africa.
We want to replicate the feat that the under-19 boys have achieved for Nigeria, qualifying Nigeria for the World Cup, first time in the history of Nigeria, over 100 years of playing cricket.
In another development, the Badminton Federation of Nigeria has attributed the achievements recorded in 2019 to the support of the Federal Ministry of Sports, Rivers State Government and corporate bodies. The President of the Federation, Francis Obi, said breaking the jinx and qualifying for the Olympic Games is a major priority for the Federation in 2020.
We have not been to the Olympics in badminton for 12 years, and they want to see if we can do it this time, and not only do it, but go there and at least make an impact.
Shuttle time, taking badminton back to school, the Federation Schools program, is also on course, as a national champion will represent Nigeria at the African School Championship. With sports updates, Olumide Eguntola, NTA News.
And now here's a quick check on Sunday's weather prospect for Nigeria and some cities of the world. And that concludes NTA International News at this time. As always, Weekend File will come by your way in just about less than 2 hours' time from now. Thanks for watching.